All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN4. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up?
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm diving back into the scene after the World Junior debacle.
Oh.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
If you had to tell me if it was like I was in a coma, what would be on top of your mind, because I've literally been unplugged, what would be the most important thing you would have to tell me from the last month that's gone down? Is it your Sens getting back into the picture? The Habital?
The Habs are on fire.
Dude, the Habs are
on fire right now.
Well,
and they got Vancouver tonight at the Bell Center.
Yeah,
that is worlds colliding.
That is worlds
That's
colliding.
What you missed. The Pedersen-Miller Vancouver circus
I don't even know what to
wild.
make of it. You and we've all played in dressing rooms where, like, you got 25 guys in the room. You're not going to love every guy in the room.
I know Noodles.
I don't know what to
I've
make
seen
of it.
situations where it's like, that guy's not for me. I don't go out to dinner with him. I've never had it where it's like affecting my play type stuff, and like dividing a room and literally hate your guts type stuff.
This is a question, though, not a statement or anything, because I don't know if it's been documented. Has there been a situation where Miller comes, through the middle of the ice and looks Pedersen off, is like, I'm not passing that guy. I don't
think so. I think what is really making this explode in Vancouver, a couple of different things. One, there are former, players, taking shots saying, I was in there and I know these two guys. That is adding fuel to the fire. Also, Vancouver isn't playing well.
Right.
And these players individually are really not playing well. JT Miller is in the worst slump of his career. He is doing nothing out there. Right. Like, it's actually really ugly the way he's playing.
This is what I want to hear, because I was unaware of that.
Yeah, he's scored 2 empty net goals, I believe, in the last month and a half. And other than that, it's nothing. Pedersen's hurt. He's likely not to return tonight. That's not helping. But when Miller's playing, Pedersen can't play. Is not supplying any offensive production. When Miller was out, Pedersen was back into heart contention.
Which is crazy.
It's a wild scene.
And the other thing, too, is, loss and all that, I believe you were around, was JT Miller took a leave.
Yes.
So, I don't know, when people ask me about it, I literally say, I don't know. I'm not privy to the information behind the curtain. There's lots of speculation, but as we know, maybe that's 10% of the truth. If there's smoke, there's fire. Something is not right there. Same with the Rangers. They look off, and it just, that's another story. That's another story.
That one's almost become stale. It's so old.
But
dude, that was going on before I left.
24, that was still happening.
That's 2024.
That's 2024.
They traded Trouba, they got rid of Kako, and they still blow.
They still
They're
are not
awful,
a very good team.
man.
They're a
I'm
mess.
just shocked. We know that owner. We don't know the owner, but we know what that owner's capable of. I'm shocked that he's just stood by going, what are we doing here? Hasn't fired the coach, hasn't fired the manager. You've traded 2 players. Kako, they got, a third and a fifth for him. Kako's not a huge difference maker. He's a nice player. And Trouba, I think a lot of teams, if Anaheim looked to flip him at the deadline, would be interested if they eat some salary. I think Trouba's a really good player.
Bottom line, they get rid of them both, and they still stink.
Exactly. So what's going on? I'm fascinated because New York is a loud market, right? It's a lot like Toronto. It can get loud. The fan base is passionate, and I don't know what's going, to the point where the fans are like, trade this guy, fire this guy. What's Dolan doing? Because he's the guy who owns the plate.
Yeah, he does. And it is a very good question. Where is James Dolan? That's the first time probably in the history of his ownership fans actually want him involved.
Right. He's the
first time ever.
Yeah.
Every other time he stepped in, you're like, can you not do that? You have no idea what you're doing, and you're meddling, and this is going to go south. So the Rangers still stink. Vancouver, it's really, really ugly out there. The Habs are on fire.
Crazy you just said the Habs are on
The
fire.
Habs are legitimately on fire. They just won an overtime in Colorado. Over the weekend. They had a great road trip.
Shootout. And the goalie, did you see? They waived Caden Primo.
No, they brought in Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, this is 86 all over again. This kid's on fire.
I watched him the other night in the shootout. He's just making it's like he's not trying. I'm like, my God, this guy is calm and cool in the net.
Patty Waugh, the Czech Patty Waugh.
Yep,
I'm still going to go back to my original prediction. I think they're an 82 to 84 point team.
I got to give you credit because, listen, I will say this. The middle of the standings in the East is
boggled up.
But it's not, there's no quality there. Like, with all due respect to these teams, they're all in it. You know who's back in it? Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit's won 4 in a row now.
Yeah.
Todd McClellan's in there, and guess what their record is? 17, 18, and 4. That's awful. That's not awful, but that's not good.
Islanders right through.
Yeah.
The only team
They're
that's
all in it.
basically out of it is
It's Buffalo.
Right.
Exactly. That's why even the Rangers, they're like, man, we win 2 or 3 in a row. We're back in the playoffs
Honestly,
here.
Oh, my God. The Rangers are only 4 points up on the
That's
Sabres.
the point. Like, Ottawa's been good recently.
They're
The last
4
couple
and
of
4.
games, they didn't play well.
They're 4-4 on the, like, they've got a 9-game road trip. They've been 4-4. They said if they could do 500 or 5-4, they've got a chance.
They'd be
tomorrow.
happy with that.
They'd be happy. It's a 9-game road trip. But you look at Columbus. Nobody talks about Columbus.
I know.
It's there. Pittsburgh hanging around. Tampa's got games in hand. But if you look at it,
It's a separation of the big boys and then everybody else.
yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it feels like. And from a local standpoint, the Leafs got 4 points over the weekend.
Yeah.
They are legitimately within striking distance of winning the President's Trophy. Like, they are 2 points out of first overall.
I'm really glad that the
That's how good they're
headlines that I
playing.
needed to be informed of, the drama stuff. that
Elsewhere.
could- Elsewhere.
Not in the city.
Dude, that would
Yeah.
easily be another year. A lot of other years, it would be involving the Maple Leafs, and I'm just so glad that's not the case.
It's the polar opposite
and
with,
I
with
hope
the
I
Leafs.
just didn't jinx them.
But there's no drama. There's worry because there's always like this Matthews thing and the goalies.
Well, now Jake McCabe's on the IR again.
yeah, that
was
didn't look good.
I
that
don't
was
know
an
what
ugly
Jake
scene.
McCabe was doing last night. Nobody deserves that, but when you go crawling up that guy's door and you jump on top of him when he's on the ground, and then he gets up and you're still going, what did he think was going to happen?
He had to be prepared for Hathaway's gloves to come off at some point.
Dude,
was
he
trying to
jumped
fight
on
him.
top
It looked
of him
like
when he
it.
was lying on the ground.
The hit-
Watch this
okay,
transaction.
but he pushed
okay,
there
you
on the
pile
head,
drive him on the ground,
forearm
then you
shiver,
give him a little threat.
And then the watch the push there.
That one.
I think he's like saying, "Get up and fight her. Let's do it here." And then Hathaway goes.
But it's like he almost was surprised the gloves came off. He had to have known, and that's why you got to know your personnel that was Hathaway, and that was going to happen. I have no idea what he was
I
thinking.
was more concerned that ice level shot. Do you see his hand? His hand kind of did that.
Well,
that,
he's
the Tua.
that-
He
Tua.
took the puck to the head like a month ago.
I know.
Remember, this is 2 in like a month.
I
It's
know.
scary for Jake
Well,
McCabe.
it is because he, knock on wood, they haven't had a lot of chaos on the back end. They've had, guys on the front end in and out and all that. Nothing on the back end.
No.
Like they've had that 4 intact for the most part, outside of the McCabe headshot.
Well-
They've had everybody available to them.
He is such an important piece
I think he is.
to
too.
what they do. He and Tanev have legitimately been one of the best shutdown pairings in the league this year.
Stabilizing, yes.
Like they're a tandem and a pair. You get into a game 7, you're up 2-1 with 5 minutes to go. Those guys are on the ice for like 3.5 minutes.
Yes.
Like you're sending them out and you're saying you got to close it for us. Like the other guys have done their job. You and the goaltender need to basically close this for us.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to happen with him. Hopefully he recovers and it's all good. Hopefully they're being very precautious. Again, that does make a lot of sense, right? We're 41 games into the season. The Leafs are in a very good spot. And based on what we saw last night, his reaction, and you mentioned like his body kind of reacting the way it reacted,
Shut him
it's
down
not
for a week.
it's not a surprise at all. Yeah, of course, he shut him down, and shut him down for a month. So be it. But if it goes anything beyond that, or if he's at risk of something more in the future, that's going to be obviously scary for Jake McCabe first and foremost. But from a team perspective, like he ranks very high in terms of importance on this team.
Oh, of
like
course.
very,
As soon
very
as
high.
You get to this point, you get to the Sid point, you get to the Tua point where you're like, all you're doing is watching, saying if the next one, if another one happens, it could be
And
game over.
he's tough as nails, too. Like, the guy is tough as nails. It's more, it happened. Looks like he got hit on the button and he hit his head on the ice. Like, it was a
It
double.
looked like
whammy.
Hathaway kind of fell on him too a little bit too.
Listen, it was ugly. However the transaction went down, he wanted it. That's the other thing. Like, he was involved in the
Yeah, he was.
transaction. Like, he didn't,
Yep.
he
But
didn't
it wasn't a
shy
sucker
away from
punch
it.
or anything.
No.
He was looking to go.
But it is concerning. But outside of that, like, that defensive core has been, you got goaltenders. You've had 4 goalies play. Like, that Hildebeest played last
Well,
night.
because Murray, that was another thing when you're gone.
Matt Murray played good.
Murray showed up, and they saw him twice and said, that's not happening anymore. So we're going to
I
have to go in a
saw one
different
of them. I
direction.
saw one of them.
Yeah, he won the first one,
Well,
and it was
although I
shaky.
will say, after that first goal on Hildeby last night, I thought they would have been texting Matt saying, "You up?" ?
Maybe listen, if Berube had his phone on the bench like the player in the KHL, maybe they would have texted him.
I have no idea. I saw this vid, and I didn't know if it was AI trying to punk on people. There was a guy skating around in the KHL, and his cell phone fell out of his gear onto the ice.
In the neutral zone.
Watch this.
Look at this guy.
Like his cell phone fell on the
Look at the guys are like, that's not mine. It's over there.
Like
over
it's
there.
Harry down there.
And this guy's like, no,
No,
that's actually
yeah,
mine.
that is mine. Oh, that's my
honestly,
case.
head down. He is so rattled. He is checking Instagram.
It fell out of his shorts.
Something is happening where during the game, he's taking a peek at his phone. I know that.
Well, if you look, his teammates initially say, no, other bench.
Yeah, other bench.
No, I think the one guy was
be
saying,
us.
there's no way in hell that's any of the player's phone.
No, it can't be. Either
Yeah,
other
over the
bench
bench.
or ref
Yeah.
or someone
That's
threw it on
thrown
the ice.
yeah.
And the other guy's in the back. He's like, it's mine. And there's first thing comes to mind. He's texting like his
Yes.
girlfriend's, in the house, and she is saying, I'm not in the wrong seats. And he's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll bring my phone out and I'll figure this out. You're driving me crazy, but I got to figure this out. Second one is he's addicted to something, TikTok or Instagram, or he's waiting for a DM or something,
Is it not?
which is
Who
scary.
Who was it that the athlete that got caught liking things during
During the game, Pablo Sandoval, I think it was.
Sandoval.
Guy in between the seventh inning stretch. This guy's in the back.
And
back,
wasn't it like big booty type websites?
It was wild stuff because that was back in the era of everyone could see.
You could see who was
Kids
doing
have
what.
no idea what
Yeah.
used to happen online with Instagram, with Twitter.
That's right.
Because you could track what people liked.
Yes.
So this, I remember it was an Instagram model who posted something in like the fifth inning.
Yeah.
And by the seventh, I believe it was him. Look that up, Doogie. You see,
liking
he
it.
was liking the tweet
During the
and
game.
the text
But I
during
don't
the game.
understand, like, what are you doing? Like, in between innings, are you going down to your dry locker and sitting there with your phone?
There are
Probably
guys that will
sitting
do
there
that.
in their, like,
if you're
with glove and that.
if you're a DH and you're the last batter up in the previous inning and you're not even fielding, these guys will go back and
Now, baseball's a different sport.
totally
because
different. Still shouldn't be doing that.
Mark
Put the phone
McGuire-
away for a few hours.
Mark McGuire has called Chris Pronger. I was sitting beside him from the dugout and said, I'll be done in 2 innings. Where are you guys? I'll meet you.
Yeah,
And we were watching him on TV.
that's
Like-
incredible.
Yes.
That's a good call to get.
But that's
Big
yeah,
Mac
like,
is hitting 70.
We're sitting at a bar.
Where are you guys?
Watching, and we're at a place called Humphreys. And he's like, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I got one more at bat. And
I
sure enough,
got
20
one more at
One
bat.
more, and that's it.
But that was
Tony
like,
La Russa knows I'm coming.
now
up.
I think he probably stepped down and walked down the tunnel or whatever, or did something respectful enough. But these guys do have their phone around them. But this is the guy skating around. with
I've
it
never
in the
seen
neutral zone.
anything. I've never seen anything like that.
I know a guy. Speaking about phones and looking around what's in the arena, this guy's rookie year, a veteran defenseman, was smashing the glass in the corner, telling 2 people to not sit near each other. You could figure out one was his wife and one was someone else.
Friend.
And he was smashing the glass, and he said it was the most rude awakening to professional hockey he's ever seen.
Yeah, you got to get the two of them in separate
Smashing the
parts.
glass and then directing traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, neutral
Well,
zone draw.
The equivalent of that now is your cell phone on the bench.
Yes.
Now you don't have to smash the glass.
Why wouldn't the guy said, "Ref, just keep the phone. It's not our phone." Just
I would
and
probably
then you go during a timeout and say, "Just keep
Or
that
pretend
phone."
that wasn't yours.
Right.
You
You
have to.
disclose
no
it.
idea.
And then you go at the
Screen
end.
grab, but the thing is, he's probably got a picture of himself, like it's a selfie
On the
as a
beach.
home screen.
The guy presses it and looks
Yeah,
at
it's like, who
anybody
is
here?
this? Who's got Face ID? The guy's like, oh god, that would have been hilarious if they were doing Face ID
You're
through the
walking-
bench and it cracks open for that guy's face.
Dude, he was so embarrassed. But
How could you not be?
with all the nonsense, look at this. This guy's cell phone falls out of his drawer.
We don't know like that bench. We're too good of an operation here. We have
That
a winning
is-
culture.
Look at his face
gotta-
right there.
Yeah,
He's
sorry
like,
about
oh
that,
my
guys.
God.
Okay,
All right,
what
boys.
team is that? I swear I played against that team. That's
I-
the KHL, right?
Yeah, it's
Like,
a KHL. Yeah.
But I think his excuse was it was near his helmet, and then he put his shirt on or his
Jersey,
shoulder
caught
pads,
his
and it
jersey.
fell into his pants.
That's what he's going to try to
insane.
convince the world happened was like he'd have your own stall and he put it up
Yeah.
top and he went to grab something. That was in his pants, which to me would suggest he's got like a holster or something. He's got a cell phone holster.
But Hayes, does that mean he's literally looking on the bench?
I would
at
have
his
to
phone?
believe so, because you know what it's. You put gear on forever. If you have something uncomfortable, you know it.
Exactly.
Like you would have, for especially if you're a professional, you put your shin pads on
One
the same
thing's
way.
off, you know it.
One thing,
Yes.
you sit down and you
100%.
feel something. You're like, I have something in my equipment.
Right.
Like there's no one can play with a cell phone stuck in there and not know it's there.
Yeah.
I don't believe that for a second.
I
Like
think
there's
he had
no
it-
way.
I think
That
he
guy's
had
been
in
doing
his
it for
glove.
200 games in the K.
He's been so that was Akbar's Kazan. I've played against that team.
Yep.
That is like he's been doing it and putting it in his glove, and it slid out. He put it in his glove because the coach probably said, "Get out there."
Yeah.
He might have been a third or fourth liner and didn't play much, and then all of a sudden got called.
I would cut him immediately, man.
It's a really It's impossible to explain.
It is.
It's impossible to explain.
insane.
But at the same time, it was going to happen at some point, because it's not the first time. I believe this has happened in the NFL. Look that up, Doogie. I'm almost positive there was a wide receiver that had a cell phone like tucked in his sock.
I thought Randy Moss did that, and he had set. He didn't he have it in the
Yeah, he put it in the end zone, like the upright.
uprights, and pulled it out. And
That was specifically for
a touchdown.
Yeah, like I'm going to score and I'm going to call somebody. And there's guys who have put like markers in their socks to pull it out and like sign the ball. I'm pretty sure, Doogie, see if you can find this, Joe from the Bridge. There was a guy who had a cell phone fall
Joe
out.
Horn.
Was that who
Saints.
it was?
Yeah, it was Joe Horn.
Joe Horn.
The
Yeah.
Saints, he pulled it out and made a fake phone call.
Okay, so that was intentional, though. Okay, so that wasn't like, oops, sorry. I
No,
didn't-
Joe Horn didn't put it in his pants. He put it in the goalpost.
that was Joe Horn that did that. Okay. Okay.
I remember Ray telling a story. I think he's told it on this show. When he was in junior, somebody got hurt, and the trainer ran out, and a Mickey of vodka or Mickey of whiskey.
Yeah, that's true.
flying
He's told that story a bunch of
bucket,
times.
And the bottle spun across the ice.
That's the guy coming out to
Imagine
help
if
you.
that guy if that happened today,
Oh,
like just a little pocket rocket
Well,
from the
who came
LCBO
out
comes
to
out of
help?
your shorts and you're bending down to help a
Who
guy.
came out to help McCabe last night? You imagine trainer
that's
running
it.
out
Yeah.
and
Bobby
The little
Hastings or
airplane
something.
rockets that you get it right when you leave the LCBO. If one of those fell on the ground, that would be the end of that guy.
What? And imagine like the Leafs brass. Brendan Shanahan waiting for that guy to come in.
Your medical trainer and a Grey Goose pocket rocket falls from his undershorts.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, boys.
Shanny would jump out of the press box.
He'd
and lie
probably
down
have to
there.
go down and say,
Or Tree
"Are
would,
you
for
serious?"
sure.
One of them would have to go down and be like,
No, I think you
That's
grab the
the end
guy.
of the
You're
road.
getting handcuffs and taking him,
Yeah.
like you're saying.
"That's going to have to be it." We appreciate your
Shanny or
services.
Tree would zip line down, like literally
like
during
Sting,
the play. Yeah.
like Sting from the WCW. Shanahan right
Just
into
all
the
the
middle
way
of the ice. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, and you're not allowed to return.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a wild scene in the K, and yeah, I'm sure the Leafs were thinking after that first goal that has been a thing for Hildeby. It seems like he gives up one soft one.
Well, that plagued Wall
I-
for the longest time where it's like
Yeah.
there's one slap shot from the point where it's not really a screen. And you're like, how the hell's that going in?
It almost beat him. Wasn't that Pasternak's first shot on Wall? That wasn't like a little zipper hit the post,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like past the.
That was a wild
It
game on
was a wild
Saturday
game.
night.
It was a really good game.
That was
I
an
enjoyed
awesome,
watching that
awesome game on Saturday.
Yeah, that
and
really was.
listen, the Matthews scenario, we talked a lot about it last week. I was not preparing for him to return. Like, I was of the impression, again, not inside information, but Jonas was in here, and Jonas is around the team every day, and Jonas didn't think he would return. I didn't get the impression like the Leafs were preparing for him to return. And all of a sudden, he plays. I thought he looked great on Saturday night. Like, he looked phenomenal on Saturday.
Almost the best he's looked.
He looked now you wonder, is he in game shape? That's different from the injury.
Right.
Is he in shape where, they're going to, because I think he played 17, 18 minutes. He looked very good.
I didn't kill penalties
but
that night.
not going to kill penalties.
Right.
And I thought last night, I thought he was good, slowed down a little bit. But again, I don't know if I don't think that's the back or anything. It's just that he hasn't played a ton.
Back to back and all.
But the fact that he returned for a back-to-back, played both, looked good, like that's very promising.
It is. And the thing, I get asked about it all the time. We're not privy to the injury. So how can we weigh in on it? People are like, should you load manage? Well, what is the injury? What do you load manage? Like did Jonas get a sit down with him, or did Jonas just interview him? Like, how did that, all of a sudden he's talking to Matthews and like,
Yeah. Jonas requests all the time.
Right, but all of a sudden, like Jonas is the chosen one to get to talk to Matthews.
I don't know if he got a one-on-one necessarily, but he did. Matthews spoke with the media last week, which was, I guess, a precursor for him returning.
So just so we're clear, he said it's something that he's going to have to manage the rest of the season, correct? Did
yes.
he say that?
He said he's hopeful he will fully recover.
My concern with that is you see the guy from Buffalo gives him a cross-check in front of the net, which is almost kind of standard protocol.
Well, and it's gonna
is every defenseman going to say, I'm just going to give this guy the business, maybe he's out of the game?
Well, especially come playoff time. Like if you play Boston in the playoffs, Zadorov's going to try to break his stick over his back every single shift.
But
he's got to be prepared for that.
Wouldn't you get to a certain point, and I don't know how the Four Nations face-off would factor into this, where you would literally, and we've goofed on this before, but you would load manage this guy until the playoffs. Say, look, we got to get this thing to a point where we get close to 100% you feeling confident in playing.
But I guess my question,
because I don't know if playing every night until the playoffs is the thing where you have to play every night.
Right, but my question is this something, and we're not privy to the information, and we won't know, that load management will help? That's the thing. It might be just something that is organic, and it's like, hey, you got to either play through it, you just got to play through it.
Well, from what we just saw, it has to help. He missed the games after Buffalo, and then he came back coming out like gangbusters.
But that's the thing. If they play, what do they play? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, right?
Yep.
So if he plays all 3 games, and he's in game shape and feeling, like, we're not privy. Like, I don't know if load management is going to help whatever is ailing him. That's my question. So
the fact that he returned for a back-to-back would suggest he's not interested in that. Like, in order to load manage, the player's got to buy into it. And this is where I am conflicted, because I have a great appreciation for athletes, especially in 2025, who want to play, like actually want to play, because there is a plague in pro sports where it's too easy to say, check, please, I'm out.
Basketball.
But yes, I mean, the NBA is at the forefront of that, clearly.
Right.
There's other examples in baseball where it's like, I threw my 75, I'm out. I'm okay. Perfect game, I don't want it because I've hit a specific number that is completely arbitrary, but I've decided to abide by it because it's science to me, so I'm not pitching anymore. And, there's other examples of it. And listen, in hockey, there are examples of guys, not feeling it, can't go. It's like, okay. But this is very clearly something separate when it comes to Matthews, because he's been dealing with it for a long time. This isn't sniffles, I'm not going. He had something in training camp. He missed a long period of time on multiple occasions. He went to Germany during the season. Like, something's up with this guy. But you're not wrong, Noodles. We don't know, and no one's going to know because he's chosen not to say anything about it. So I don't know if load management would count, but I would say if you feel like it could help, then I absolutely think you have to practice that. Why would you not load management Auston Matthews? I was saying on Friday, it's Kawhi Matthews the rest of the year if you have to. But for this year, doesn't mean the rest of your career. But this year, you've got to do it, because look at how good this team is right now. They're in a really good place.
But here's the thing: he missed games in the playoffs. And he's missed games this season. If they're all tied together, this is the Demko situation.
Well, and that's what makes it very unsettling, is when you see him play, like you saw, like Saturday night, Matthew Nyes had himself a great night. Marner was phenomenal. But putting the big guy in his place, it settles everything else in properly. Like, it opens up so many doors for Craig Berube to match lines.
And a side note, they scored some playoff goals on Saturday night against the Boston Bruins, where in years past it seemed like they would fizzle out and it would be like off the rush or maybe not at all. Go in the corner, strip McAvoy the puck, strip the puck off him from behind the net, out to Nyes, deflections in front. It's like, if anybody wonders what Craig Berube is trying to preach, just have a look at some of those goals. Go to the net, get your stick on a puck. Like, this play right here, just go to the net. And the Matthews from behind the net is just a great play.
Well,
and that's where they've struggled to score offense in the playoffs.
Last night was the same thing.
The goal I liked, because Zadorov, I think, gave Nyes a little pop in the nose there. And the hands went up. And I think in years past, he sells it, or the team sells it. he digs in and goes and scores then. Like I like that play because it's like he didn't run at the ref. He tried, listen, you get popped in the lips, probably should have been a penalty, maybe not, whatever. But he ends up scoring a goal on the play instead of, trying to yell at the ref or being a suck about it. Like, to me, there was just a determination about it. That's the one I
I agree with you.
I like that.
And last night, Nyes in front of the net, Ekman Larson in front of the net. Like, it was the same thing last night. Look at those two goals. And Morgan Riley getting that in overtime was big. Like,
good for him.
He hasn't offensively broken out this year. He has not had, really, from offense from the point has been completely non-existent prior to last night.
Yeah.
Like, they hadn't scored a goal from the point in like a calendar month, I think, since Tanev scored back in early December.
Yeah,
so like they need to get something going.
That's
from the
how
point.
Sanheim didn't attempt to jump Matthews there is beyond me why he didn't do that. When you have a guy bobbling the puck, I don't care if it's Mario or anybody else, and you're that close to him, you might as well go 100%. He burnt you anyway. Take a chance.
I was so shocked. You go or you don't go.
That's it. He
was half, and
he was
like,
95% of the way there, and then he said, "No, I'm gonna."
You're giving Riley a free look, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthews made a great play, but Sanheim doesn't close that off at all, and Matthews
could be the
realizes
Matthews effect there too, though. He
But
looked
you're right,
at him. He's
but
like, "This
go
guy's
at
going to
him."
embarrass me if I reach."
You got to go with the Ray Bork policy there. Ray Bork would jump anybody. He did not care who it was. What's the sense of backing off? You get crushed anyway. You might as well take a chance. You'd be shocked even talented players will panic and just throw the puck away. You got to take a chance.
Yeah.
You might look what happened with what he did. He backed off and he paid the price.
Pressure generally works.
Yeah.
Ask Sam Darnold about that last night.
That guy was running for his life.
Sammy Darnold did not have himself a good night.
Ghosts are back?
There were some ghosts. Like, he was jittery. His feet he was dancing in the pocket last night. Like, he did not look comfortable. And that was such an impressive win by Detroit.
I asked you off air. I said, Detroit, are they legit?
I have to give them all the credit in the world because they have had so many injuries. They lost a couple more guys last night. And
are they getting any back for the playoffs?
They think so. Well, now you got 2 weeks off, right? You got the first seed, so you don't have to play in the wild card weekend. But that was they bullied Minnesota last night. Like, that was classic Detroit football. Like, Gibbs was great. Goff was good. Their offensive line was great. Luke Wilson coming up in half an hour. We'll get his take on Week 18. And now the playoffs are set, right? Playoffs are set. It is go time. We've got the Chiefs as the 1 seed in the AFC. The Lions now as the 1 seed in the NFC. So we'll catch up with Luke. We got Chris Johnson on the show today. Danny Briere coming up at 6:30 because the Leafs have a
home and
home,
yep.
Right? They're in Philly tomorrow night. And I want, like, the Garnet Hathaway thing, you could see Domi got fined today. Domi was chasing him around after. They weren't happy with him.
Yeah.
Hathaway is a guy that he plays on the edge. He can fight.
Yeah.
I
thought it was a dumb play by Max. I'm sorry.
Well, it was over the top.
Exactly.
I didn't think he was going to get suspended, but it was possible. That was a big elbow, and he got him twice with the forearm, too, on the way back.
Well, go and fight him if you had such a problem with it.
Yeah. But that's what I'm wondering. Like, does Reeves go in the lineup tomorrow night? But Hathaway's not going to fight Reeves.
No, he's not going to fight because he's not a heavyweight.
I thought that was elbowing. I honestly didn't think that was a fine.
Well, I think it was the first one.
I think it was
his
the
elbow.
Second one.
Oh, it was the second one?
Well, they called it. They got $5,000 for elbowing, but it was the second one where he comes back at him. I think
you thought it was the second one. I thought it was the first one.
No, I think they got fined for the first one.
The first one seemed to ride up and, like, I don't know. The guy fell down.
My thing is, I think the league said the accumulation of two, we're going to put you on the books.
Regardless, whenever you do something like that, you're taking it's out of your hands and you're putting it in somebody's else.
Yeah, like the first one gets it, but then the second one, he really came back with that second elbow. The second one, if he gets him, watch this. If he gets him here, that could have really got him.
I'll tell you one thing. The refereeing, I don't know. They got to figure out what Canada's going to do for the World. They need to get some refs to go to that damn tournament. That reffing at the World Junior Tournament, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I saw a guy go up to him, just push his arm a little bit, and the ref was looking and he goes, penalty!
I know.
This Leonard guy, who's an unbelievable
Ryan Leonard, really good player.
That guy, he's going to be somewhat like of a Ryan Kessler in a...
He's a Washington's got that Hudson kid.
He'll go right to Washington.
They are loaded in Washington.
He's like an Eichel Kessler kind of man. He's really good. But he went up and pushed a guy at the end of a period with his pinky finger, and the Euro ref was looking, and he's like, penalty! It was insane, the penalties I saw.
We'll
come back and get into it.
You got to tell us a lot. That was a mess. Team Canada's a mess.
Let's get into where we're at here. Danny Briere was World Junior, played for Canada a lot. We'll catch up with Danny in a couple hours, maybe get his take on that too. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Luke Wilson in half an hour. A lot of coaches being fired in the NFL today.
Dude, Jared Mayo, you're going to fire that guy after 1 year? I think the one comment that started the whole thing is when he brought up the white lines earlier in the season. I think that really hurt him.
That did hurt him when he said once
I
they
can
go
only
out
bring
there,
them to the white lines, and as soon as they cross them, I'm done with them.
Yeah, that wasn't smart. But he's a rookie coach, learning, and the team was horrendous. Like,
but what were you expecting?
That's my point. Like, they weren't going to be competitive this year.
Like was he Peter Horacek? Like was he Ronnie Rolston put in?
Dude, what it means is you
Kind
didn't
of.
do your due diligence and get the best coach if you're firing him after 1 year.
Now, by all accounts, Kraft had pegged him as the successor for years. Okay. You know, he had been working with Belichick. He's obviously a former Patriot.
But it's a misfire, man.
Yeah, and listen, I'm reluctant to say, he got completely screwed over here without knowing exactly what's going on behind the scenes. There's a chance Kraft and the front office was watching him daily and saying, this isn't good. Like, this guy doesn't really, we picked the wrong guy. That happens sometimes. Yeah. But in terms of the football team, the Patriots were never going to be competitive. Like, ever. So it can't be, we only won so many games, so he's got to go. That would be completely unfair.
That sounds like Bobby Kraft, though, the type of owner he is. It's like, okay, I'm going to blame it. Like somebody, in losing seasons, I feel like owners sometimes want to peg it on somebody. Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to pay the price.
I think there's something to that because Brady's not there anymore. Belichick's not there anymore. The only guy left is Kraft.
Right.
And, he was, by all accounts, always wanted to be included. Like, hey, it's Brady, Belichick, and Kraft. Don't forget, I'm a big part of this too. And the other two are gone, and now it's a train wreck. And he doesn't want to put his hand up and say, I made the wrong move.
Somebody's got to pay the price for a loss.
So Gerard Mayo, he's out. Doug Peterson, not surprising at all, is out in Jacksonville. But there's also some coaches that it sounds like are going to stick around.
Dable?
Dable, I think, is going to stick around in New York.
I'm sorry.
Mess.
You've got to be insane to come out with that statement. They're all coming back next year?
The coach is coming back. GM's coming back. They don't have a quarterback. They cut Danny Dimes, so I don't know what you could possibly expect next year.
But they might be worse next year.
They could be. And they have an owner who came out today, and this is never a good sign. When the owner's coming out and doing press conferences and stuff, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And the Mara family, he came out and he's like, I expect them to turn it around. I'm losing patience. That screams desperation, stupid moves in the offseason to win 7 games.
And also, not only that, they're going to win 7 games next year. Or not, maybe
not even.
Not even.
Probably not.
But you're going to do some stupid things that might set your organization back 10 years.
Exactly.
Like waste a bunch of money.
That's
Picks,
it.
money.
Sign a bunch of guys, and you're like, what is that possibly going to do for you? You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Luke on that and more coming up at about a half an hour. The World Juniors, shout out to the Americans. And Czechia, they win in a shootout, which was a wild shootout against Sweden.
Yeah. Shout out to our colleagues that, I only do the Canada games, but Gord, MJ, Bobby Mack, Duthie, Cheryl, and all the people that do all the games, that is a ton of work.
Yeah.
I came home from doing the Canada games early after the quarterfinals, and I was tired from that. I can't imagine the amount of work that, especially Gordon and Mike, that do every single game. That
was the thing. I was flipping around.
Crazy.
Yesterday was one of the great sports days.
It was.
Of all. It was amazing.
Yes.
There was a great Sunday nighter. The Leaf game was great. Hideki's doing his thing out in Hawaii. And then you got the World Juniors. And I flip it on in the afternoon. There's Gordon MJ. And then at 11 p.m., I'm like, there's Gordon MJ. They're still there.
Double
They're
down.
still in the booth, calling games.
Crazy hours, crazy
it's
energy,
amazing.
man.
That's the amazing thing. The calls never slow down. It's incredible.
Everybody there did great work. Craig Button.
Yeah,
he was
Craigie's
calling
all
games.
over the place doing stuff. Kenzie was great calling. Bunch of games.
It's a big.
Laura Dyke in there as well. Laura's amazing.
It's a big
shout out
property.
to everybody.
Everybody deserves credit. You know who doesn't deserve credit? Team Canada. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I'm sorry.
They never looked dangerous.
That's what it was. I know there's a lot of talent, and this is what bothers me. A lot of those players individually are going to go on and have great NHL careers. Mm-hmm. Great. There's going to be star players that are on that team that didn't have success. That's the bottom line. There's a lot of pressure on those young kids, but I think they were put in a bad situation where I don't know if they chose the team correctly. They certainly didn't execute. and they just didn't look. Oh, you saw it. You can talk to it. You were right there. Did they look comfortable? Did they look dangerous? Did they watching the games? I'm sorry. They didn't look.
Never.
They
Like,
were
Never
just,
felt
not
dangerous.
look
Hayes
comfortable.
mentioned the word dangerous, Jamie, and
Yeah.
they just were never close to being dangerous enough. Obviously, in that quarterfinal game, like they had some bad breaks go their way. That didn't really happen. Their goaltender was outstanding through the whole tournament, and I don't think he had a great quarterfinal game. But Hayes mentioned the word dangerous. They couldn't get close, and something happened after the Finland game. They beat Finland 4-0 in the first game, and you're like, this is looking like a typical Canadian team where they're going to have a bunch of solid players. It's a non-Bedard year or McDavid where it's going to be by committee, and they've got a bunch of great players, and they're going to overwhelm teams with just their depth and their power and their scoring ability. And after that Finland game, it all fell off.
Yeah,
Like
dried up.
the world. They couldn't score goals. They couldn't even come close to scoring goals. Like, Jamie, they lost to Latvia.
I
I'm
know.
sorry. You might have a bad period against Latvia. You don't lose against Latvia. I know it's a tournament and things can happen, this and that. But I said to Hayes on Friday, whenever they win, I always praise the players. Like, this line was great. The goaltender, this shutdown D pairing was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Major contributors to winning gold.
Right.
So when they don't win gold and they perform like that, it's pretty difficult to bypass the players and say, who selected the team? Who's coaching the team? The players weren't good enough.
Right.
Obviously, they do have to fix the selection committee because
I just
whoever picked those players, they weren't the best players. You bring the best players.
Yeah,
End of story.
I think that's a very valuable point, an important point, because there is a reluctance to do that. I think it's different. Attacking an individual player for whatever reason is one thing if they're 17, 18, what have you. But collectively as a group, these are the best players in the world at their age group. They are primed for the National Hockey League. When they go back to their club teams, all the pressure's on them.
Dude,
in their
that USA
hometowns.
team didn't look like it had too many role players.
No,
they were all studs.
They were ready to rock, and that clearly was a part of their thinking. They admitted to that they were trying to build a team that would compete. And listen, those
they didn't want
intangibles are
one-way
important.
players.
Yeah, but if there's skill at that level that can put you over the top, you got to have it.
Here's the thing that bothers me about that statement: one-way players. You can't teach skill. You can teach one-way players how to play defense,
kidding.
especially at a critical time.
No, Jamie, you say to the player who's got 50 goals at Christmas time, you say, you want to come play on the World Juniors?
Yeah.
If you don't play a certain way, you don't get on the ice. And I told Hayes once again on Friday, I was the leading scorer of the Guelph Storm. I was told at the World Juniors, you're a fourth-line plug. You're going to have to kill penalties. You're going to have to be a depth player. And if you don't like it, you simply don't play. So what do you want to do? You have no choice.
Yeah, you go and you accept that role and you excel at it because you're a special player. Like, special players can adapt to anything. That's why we see top offensive players
Look at the
that are
senior
killing
men's
penalties.
team in the recent years. You've had guys like John Tavares and Rick Nash and Joe Thornton on the fourth line.
Yeah.
And they're told, you got to be a checker now. That's what you are.
I hope for this Four Nations Cup and further for the Olympics that the selection team doesn't start to go, hey, we need a role. Like, you pick the best players available. You obviously within reason, but you better learn from stuff like this where it's like, hey, we didn't choose the best players potentially in that scenario. And I know in Ottawa they're saying Yakimchuk, and there's other guys that are, but
Like, there's a scenario right there. You couldn't have brought that Yakimchuk to camp and just had a look at him and said, nah, maybe this isn't for him. At least bring him there and have a look at him, for crying out loud.
Well, especially, again, playing to the crowd, which can factor into what you're building. Like, I would think Ty would go to the Ottawa Senators pick. We're in Ottawa. The guy literally was in the lineup opening night.
yeah.
He was playing for them.
Yeah.
It's again, I can't sit here and give you expert analysis on what these kids are doing with their club teams. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the kids are doing in Moose Jaw.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening there. I can look at a stat sheet and say, wow, that guy's got a lot of points. Or this
Regardless of what their roles were
But
on that
that's-
team, they're leading their team in scoring or one of their best players.
Well, 100%. But this is also the reality of where Canadians are at. Is we're handcuffed because you have to put faith in Hockey Canada to know that. That is their job, to know that. They have to know how these players are playing and how they're going to mix and how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I did not like I didn't like the messaging coming out. It seemed like there was a lot of
Politics.
finger pointing and a lot of defensive, oh, I got no regrets, nothing I can do. Wow, there's a lot of good teams. That's not a Canadian mentality we should embrace.
No.
That should never be in our lexicon that,
Why
hey,
not
well,
just,
what are
why
you going
not
to do?
just say this? We finished 5th in the last 2 years. We need to put some fresh eyes on how we're selecting the team.
Yeah. We need to be the best. Period.
Listen,
You have to. This is the sport that we are allowed to have that type of arrogant viewpoint.
I got to tell you, as a
we've
Canadian,
backed it up for a long
and I got
time.
a broadcasting job to do. I don't really care who wins and loses. I go to sleep well at night. But watching the Americans, I'm like, that's the way Canada used to look.
you know why?
Yeah,
Because they
wave after wave after wave.
Wave after wave after
Now-
solid player, after the skating, the skills. It was
what the Americans have done is they put together a program where you're in and it is like full board. Doesn't matter what goes on, all the noise. Now, listen, the Canadian organization has gone through some stuff, obviously. That's, there's a black cloud over that. They're trying to dig out. But I think some of the focus on the teams can't get dragged down by that stuff. You got to worry about developing and having players be top tier. Like you just said, that slight arrogance, because that's where Canada has been, the top tier. All these other countries are catching you. And
that's what they tried to do, Jamie. They tried to skill versus skill, and it was like, you can't just go out there and skill. Even a team against Latvia, it was like they're. And I'll go to my grave on this one. One of the separators for Canada has always been their physical game.
right.
Their ability to go in the corner and just blow up defensemen and get the puck and take it to the net,
Yeah.
and kind of an old school way or an approach to scoring.
Yeah.
And I don't know. If you don't want to do that and you just want to say, oh, here's our skill against yours, we'll beat you. You'll get your ass handed
I
to
hope
you in
they
that
got it.
tournament every time.
They have to have what they should do is have a summit and have the best hockey minds involved.
I think just
Because I don't know if, like I say, from top down, they've got to get some fresh eyes potentially on.
just put one person at the top. You just need to find one guy with outside and no bias and no opinion who's been involved with Canada before. And you just have them look at the selection process so they can say, why would we even think about doing that? Or why are you doing this? Why not that guy?
Well, I think we're about 13, 14 months away from that possibly happening. Because it's one thing at the juniors where you're not going to win every single year.
What are you saying if the Four Nations gets blown
I'm
up?
saying more so the
No,
Olympics
the
next
Olympics,
year.
26.
If the national team starts
Gets rinsed.
falling behind, they lose in the quarters, that's when heads are going to explode.
You're
Like that's when it's going to be, what are we doing here and how's this going to work and how are we going to get this back on track?
Yeah.
Because that's coming. Like it's one thing at the junior ranks, it's another thing at different levels. It's
Right,
when
so-
when the national team is trailing.
But that being said, the national team goes and wins either the Four Nations Cup or a gold medal, you're fine.
You're going to be pretty happy as
You're
a
gonna be
Canadian
pretty
hockey
happy.
fan.
Then you go, hey, at the junior level, we got to.
Oh,
is
there'll
what
be
it is.
nothing to see here with a junior. They won't even
Yeah.
talk about the
Gold medal at the Olympics and McDavid's flying and everyone's looking great.
Dude, the Four Nations, if they win this little Four Nations, someone will pop up and say, excuse me, I think Hockey Canada's fine.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be down there. Summit
yeah.
this. All right. Luke Wilson coming up in 20 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Luke Wilson in about 10 minutes. NFL playoffs are set. See, Tiger Woods won that player impact program
Dude, I'm
again.
so sick of that thing, man.
Guy wins it $10 million every year. He never plays.
And
Scotty
it's not
Scheffler-
like he's out like doing vids and stuff for people's
Nothing.
entertainment. He sits at home. He shows up to his tournament in Bahamas in December. Like, I get it.
Continuity, though. You know what it is?
It's thanks for everything.
If you look at the list of the guys that are on the PIP, it's like all that list is thanks for not going to live.
Exactly. I was just going to say.
Exactly.
He could have taken $1 billion or 900.
I
whatever.
get it, but it
They said,
just
"We'll give you
seems
10
like
million."
it's crazy for that guy to shove $15 million in his. Well, what's the number?
It's $10 million.
$10 million.
10 million. He's won it, I believe, 4 years in a row, like
Yeah.
$40 million, and he's played like 16 times in 4 years or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
He never plays.
He never plays. You're right. He's not on social media. He doesn't do anything.
Dude, think
he's
about
not
this.
showing up.
Scotty Scheffler had one of the greatest years on tour, and he didn't have a sniff against
He
Tiger
didn't
Woods.
win. He came and he still took home like $8 million.
I get it.
Yeah,
but
still,
what a setup for Tiger.
that is a thank you.
No,
Yeah,
that's a
it
thank
is.
you. That is a thank you for doing
Absolutely.
everything. And not one player has the right, because I think it's getting a little bit nuts. But no player, the money that guy has shoved in their jeans
it's
is
crazy.
Crazy how much money.
It's crazy. And I think this is the last year of that program anyway, so I guess they're getting rid of it. I don't know. But, Tiger, $10 million. Like he needs the money, too. The guy's a
that would be an
anyway.
interesting vote. Like Tiger would be like, nah, you could probably get rid of it now. After it gave him $40 million.
Yeah, for just being Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just hanging around every once in a while.
But if you look at the other guys all on the list, I guarantee you they got in the room with Monahan and said, you just make it these 10 guys because they're the guys that could have gone to live. You make sure that they win this PIP 1-10.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I mean, Scheffler now, he's got the cut hand. He pulled out of the American Express next week, but hopefully shows up at Pebble later in the month. But PJ Tour's back. They're back. We'll see.
Decky crushed the Century with
Man, he looked good out there.
white Asics and yellow shoes on.
His gear is the most outrageous
Dude, he
gear
looks like a
on tour.
1970s retro golfer with those shirts and stuff.
He
Gets it done.
loves the glasses on the back of the hat, too. He
That
loves
is a veteran. Anyway, Morikawa had the new TaylorMade driver. We've got to get our hands on
Yes.
one and try one out over in Vaughan.
He was cutting that all over that golf course. The QI35, it looked brilliant. All right, hour 2 coming up. Luke Wilson will join us. More on the Leafs weekend and what they have in store coming up this week, including in Philly tomorrow. And you got the Habs and the Canucks. Worlds colliding at the Bell Center tonight. We'll look ahead to that as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.